Welcome back, you whiskey-loving legends, to another episode of Was It Worth It Whisky. And today we have a bit of a classic. We have the Dalwhinnie 15-year-old, bottled at 43 ABV. You know, it took me a fair bit of convincing to get a bottle of this. And even still, I only got the little wee 20cl bottle. And the reason being is it looks like an old medicine bottle, or it looks like it belongs in an old paper bag with the top hanging out. You know what I mean. Look at it. And the big bottle's just the same, right? I think this particular whiskey could really do with some good rebranding. A new bottle, a new look. Well, that is if the whiskey inside it is any good to justify anyway. So with that, let's find out. Well, these little corks are kind of tough. Anyway. Righto. Let's warm up a little bit. Air up. So on the nose, I get a vanilla, malt, this light sweetness, very light sweetness. Then I'm kind of hit with this ethanol vapors, pungent ethanol vapors. Maybe there's a bit of green apple in it too. Yep, that's about it really. It's funny how I said this looks like a bit of a medicine bottle. The other day my grandmother came around. She's a bit lonely these days because her husband passed away a while ago. And she came and she said, "So Jeremy," she goes, what's all this whiskey thing you're into at the moment? You know, you're reviewing whiskies, you're talking about whiskies, everything you're doing is about whiskies. I said, "Well, Gran, I like whiskey, and plus it's good for you, it reduces stress, it can lower blood pressure, it has a multitude of other benefits, as long as you don't have too much, not advocating drinking too much of it." And she said, oh, okay. She goes, "Well, you better give me a go then," she said. I said, all right, Gran. So I said, "Which one do you want?" Anyway, she pointed to the little bottle of Dalwhinnie. I thought, bless her cotton socks, I thought that was a bit funny. Anyway, I poured her half a nip. I didn't want to give her too much. And she put it in her mouth and she swirled around for a while and she took a sip and she said, she goes, "Jeremy, strange. That whiskey tasted exactly like the medicine your grandfather, my husband, had to take for 20 years. Bless her cotton socks, I couldn't tell her. Anyway, moving right along. We'll go for the palate, hey? Why not? That's still funny. The palate, I'm going to say it's a cereal, malt, very light honey, kind of nothingness. It's a very bland palate. It's not ugly, it's not a spew your guts up horrible palate. It's just a whole lot of nothingness, I think. Maybe there's a touch of creaminess, but not much, very, very little. Still getting these cereal, malty, light honey, but very bland. It's like a white fish, a bland piece of white fish that hasn't been seasoned, that hasn't been cooked with anything. It's there, something's there, but nothing's there. The finish goes into these wood tannins, dry oak. What I mean by the dry oak, I'm talking about that bitter oak taste. It's not very enjoyable. I really think that the cask selection could have been a lot better. I don't think they took much care, or have done recently, in the cask selection. Because I think the whiskey's good, but I just don't think it's been finished off. I don't think they've thought about, and this is just my opinion, which means nothing, of course. I don't think they've gone to all this effort in making a great whiskey, and then they've put it in whatever cask they can get cheapest at the time. That's what this whiskey tells me, or is saying to me. Anyway, it's besides the point because it's just what I think. From a score, I'm going to give it an 84 points for the nose. I'm going to give it 80 points for the palate. And I'm going to give it a 77 points for the finish. Giving us a grand total of 81 points. Now it's in the 80s, so it's drinkable. But on a was it worth it score, you picked up this bottle for about £40, 35 to £40, or 70 USD, or 85 Australian dollars. And for that price and that score, I can only give it one thing, and that's going to be a big thumbs down, and I'm going to give it 3 out of 10. I think they can do better. One, I think it definitely needs a big rebranding because it just doesn't look inviting to anyone that doesn't know it. But two, they can't just rebrand. They have to do something about the taste, because at the moment it can be considered an old medicine bottle. Anyway, till next time, say hello to your grandparents. Cheers.